Well, hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. In March of 2016, Tulsa and the Grand Lake of the Cherokees, once again for the second time in 3 years, hosted the Super Bowl of fishing, the Bassmaster Classic. Now, if you're not familiar with the Classic, it truly is an amazing event. Not only are the best anglers in the world competing for the title of world champion, but the entire fishing industry is there as well. Thousands of spectators take in the 3 days of weigh-ins at the BOK Center, gather at 6 a.m. every morning for takeoff, and come see the industry's latest and greatest gadgets at the Outdoor Expo. So if you weren't one of the thousands of spectators to take it all in person, here's a look back at all the action.
Oh my gosh, it's a big one. Oh gosh, it's a giant. Come here, come here, stay down there. Woo! Yeah! Woo!
After each day, the anglers travel from Grand Lake down to the BOK Center in Tulsa to weigh in. Thousands poured in to witness history as Oklahoma's own Edwin Evers staged an incredible comeback to take home the title of world champion.
Boom shakalaka! Giant bass! E squared on Championship Sunday! 29 pounds and 3 ounces. The native son gets it done. Your 2016 Geico Bassmaster Classic champion, Edwin Evers. He is the reigning and defending.
The weigh-ins are a big-scale theatrical production, but they're also dealing with live animals. Behind the scenes, our fisheries biologists and local volunteers operate like a well-oiled machine to ensure every fish was returned back to Grand Lake alive and healthy.
First of all, regardless of talking about today, I want to congratulate you and thank you for an incredible reign as our Geico Bassmaster Classic champion. But seems like it's been a lot of fun and you don't want that reign to end. How special would it be to you to win back-to-back, or how surreal would that be?
I'll tell you, man, to win one is a dream come true, you know, to make it happen twice.
Yep.
That's something that nobody's ever done before, and it would, I don't know, if you go down in the record books, nobody can take that from you.
Well, I wish you luck. A great start to things. One more time, let's hear it for Casey Ashley.
I think you can tell we're backstage at the Bassmaster Classic 2016 in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the BOK Center. Our role here, we partner with B.A.S.S to get every one of these fish back to Grand Lake alive. So the way that process works is we have volunteers that once the fish are weighed on the stage, they come through the bottom of the stage. Volunteers run them back here. You can see the hatchery truck behind us. Fish go in the truck. Our guys will in when the last boat comes through here, the last fish is weighed. We'll take every one of those fish back to Grand Lake, put them back in the lake at ramps that are not disclosed to the public or to the anglers. So those fish will all be put back in Grand. In 2013, we had 100% of the fish made it back to the lake alive.
All right, our next angler, you might recognize him. He hails from a town called Kalamazoo, Michigan. Here comes Kevin Vander.
Let's hear about day number one. I gotta believe.
That's a nice one. Our job is to have a truck here with water on it to be able to hold the fish during the tournament, and then also to transport them back to the lake and stock them back into the lake. And these are professional anglers that know how to handle fish, and there's a lot of money on the line, so they're really careful on how to treat their fish in their live wells, and because they get penalized for dead fish, so they're really careful about keeping them alive. Fortunately, the water is pretty cool. It's like 53 degrees, and the lake is in the high 40s, low 50s. So the fish handle pretty good, and but once they're caught, they're staying in the live well as the drivers are coming to the weigh in, and then so they're holding really good. They look good.
B.A.S.S. tournaments are as widely popular as they are today, thanks in part to a colossal fishing-related advertising industry. From Pro Angler Signature Series tackle to magazine and TV and internet advertising, well, every sportsman would really be hard-pressed to be able to escape its influence. Now, you're probably already aware that Oklahoma has several different big-time fishing companies. But are you also aware that we're also home to several different marketing firms that help to support the outdoor industry? Alan McGuckin from Skiatook works for one of these marketing firms and is what you would call an industry insider who has rubbed shoulders behind the scenes with all the biggest names for more than 20 years. And it's probably possible that even you have been exposed to and influenced by some of his work. Now, Alan lives the life of essentially a pro angler, following the tour year-round with them. The only difference is he doesn't have the added pressure of having to catch big fish.
My dad was an out-of-work construction worker. Work was slow that summer. We were on a fishing trip on the Ohio River, and he was sitting in the back of a 14-foot deep V aluminum boat, canary yellow in color. And Dad was sitting in the back seat, and I was fishing out of the bow. And he said, "What do you think you want to do when you grow up?" And of course, like most teenagers, I wasn't sure. And I thought about it a while, and he finally realized I didn't have a good answer. He said, "Well, I'll tell you what. I don't care what you do for a living, just promise me you'll do something you love." And those words guided the rest of my life. Those words, "I don't care what you do, just promise me you'll do something you love," I took that seriously. Yeah, essentially my job each day is to create public relations exposure for the brands that pay me to represent them. So a lot of picture taking, a lot of story writing. So everything that I write or take a picture of essentially within the fishing industry includes at least one or more of those brands. Part of my job actually takes place in an office in Tulsa, Oklahoma, just like anybody else that has an office job. It's a lot of time on a laptop in front of a computer, generating stories, trading emails throughout the fishing industry with editors or fellow marketing people or what have you. So a really cool photo here. This is Team Toyota. Obviously, we've got 4 Elite Series anglers that are on the team: Iaconelli, Scroggins, Swindle, and Van Dam. And we'll shoot team shots like this about once a year, sometimes every other year. This particular photo was shot on the shores of Lake Guntersville, Alabama. A lot of production time goes into this. We scout the location the day before. We're up at 4 o'clock in the morning so that we're there for what we call soft light at sunrise. And then, you know, here's a shot that conversely, we go from the countryside in Alabama to the inner city in Philadelphia. And this is a shot that I'm so proud to have captured of Mike Iaconelli just after he won the Blue Elite Series trophy here on the Delaware River in his hometown. Just love the emotion in his eyes right there. I was actually standing on the weigh-in stage and shot that looking down into the crowd after he jumped over the fence to celebrate with the hometown crowd. I got a feature story up here that I'm working with Mike Iaconelli on about how to select topwater frogs, and you know, that's a story that's sketched out here on a notepad that I carry in my travels out in the field, and then when I'm back here in the office, I generate those stories when I have time to sit down and write them, because obviously I can't write everything while I'm on the road. I'm covering the guys who are the best in the world at what they do, and the guys that I'm covering are affiliated with the brands I'm paid to represent. So I'm taking a picture of a Kevin Van Dam fishing with a Quantum rod and reel, or perhaps I got him in his Toyota truck that morning on the launch ramp. But about a third of my year, 100 nights a year, roughly 18 weekends a year are spent outside of Oklahoma, on the road, living at a Holiday Inn Express typically, on the road in a hotel, living that life, and it's a very different life. Life on the road is a big part of what I do, and that's typically involves following the Bassmaster Elite Series. So whether they're in Arizona or upstate New York or down in Florida, I'm there. It's essentially like living the life of a pro angler, only I'm not fishing. There's not a real sense of normalcy about my job. right now, so I've got Casey Ashley right here, an opportunity to interview Casey Ashley, one of our quantum pros that I work with. And I just saw Kevin Van Dam run up the dock with a box full of Lucky Cookies. So I'm thinking there's probably a story there.
Got concussed coming into this event, and actually at one point thought you weren't even sure if you could.
There's obviously a story here about cookies. You're streaking around with cookies.
I had to bring them to the boys.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
I want you to hold them up.
Yep, got it.
Where's our shadows? Alan McGuckin here, day 2 of the Bassmaster Classic. Kevin, I just saw you running up the dock with Lucky Cookies. What are you doing, man?
I got a whole box of them right here. I mean, that's Cherry's famous Lucky Cookies right there. I had to bring them up there for the boys. They have to have one too. I mean,
the boys being your sons?
Yeah,
okay.
We got to have the whole family mojo going.
Okay, so of all you got on your mind, you're distributing cookies this morning.
We're about to take off, but you got to have your cookies.
You're the man, dude. Good luck. My life becomes very much infused and attached with the pros, their wives, and even their kids to some degree. We are a bit of a traveling circus out there. We're a traveling family, and a lot of it's psychological. There's a loneliness out there that we all experience, and we're very dependent on each other. So we have a lot of meals together in the evenings after weigh-ins. A lot of times the wives will invite me to go to breakfast with them after all the guys, their husbands, have launched to go compete for the day. And a lot of times I have to decline that invitation because I'm headed back to the room to write the story that morning. But yeah, a lot of my interaction, what people consider glamorous, and that I get to work with the Kevin Van Dams and the Gerald Swindles and the Mike Iaconellis and all the top names in our sport. I interact with those guys on a very personal level. There's definitely a brotherhood out there. That's the stuff you'll never see on the Bassmaster TV show, on the Bassmaster website, or in the magazine. But yeah, my life is very much intertwined with the life of the pro anglers, and theirs with mine as well. A very typical Bassmaster Elite Series morning for me generally starts with about a 4:30 a.m. wake-up call, and lots of dark and bold coffee. And then it's out the door in the dark to get to the launch ramp, wherever we are in the country. Could be Palatka, Florida, could be Toledo Bend down Louisiana, California Delta, pick a place, coast to coast. Once at the launch ramp, I start shooting photos and looking for a good story. It's really kind of a spontaneous situation in which I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what the story will be that morning, but generally I'll interview my anglers. I work with about 10 or 12 of the Elite Series pros very closely. This job, or this career, probably better described, was very calculated. I knew that I wanted to make a living around fishing, and then it was up to me to figure out how. And honestly, I was pretty naive when I was in my teens and even into my college years. The only career that I knew was tied to fishing, certainly bass fishing, was that of a fisheries biologist. So I started pursuing an education largely under the guidance of Oklahoman and former Bassmaster Classic champion Ken Cook, who told me that I'd need a master's if I wanted to be a fisheries biologist. And so I desired to work on largemouth bass in graduate school, getting my master's, and that led me, I actually looked at 2 schools. I looked at Auburn and I looked at OU. And I chose to go to OU and move my life 1,100 miles across the country to work with Bass Pro Kenyon Hill. His father, Dr. Loren Hill, was my major professor at the University of Oklahoma. So my desire to get a master's in fisheries and do research with largemouth bass took me to the University of Oklahoma. And during my graduate school experience, then I started to realize, hey, there's an entire industry around bass fishing. You know, there's a company that's producing the lures, the rods, the reels, the boat companies, obviously. And I realized there were people making a living at those brands, at those companies. And so I became more aware of the business side of fishing. I love what I do. I got out of bed at 3 o'clock this morning to come up here to launch, and it never gets old, man. There's always a great story here. A lot of times unpredictably, but that's what's so cool about it. It's like going fishing or hunting. You never know what you're gonna catch, but usually it's something pretty good. It's always a great experience, so just feel real blessed to be here, man. So we're in a hotel room. It's a place I spend about 80 to 100 nights a year in my business travels. consisting of about 18 weekends of work a year. And those are all centered around events, mostly the Bassmaster Elite Series events all over the United States. Generally around 7:30 or 8, begin to write, get a story hopefully done that morning, download all the photos that I've shot that morning. Now, those photos will be used to either support the story or sent off for social media needs that morning to the 4 clients that I represent out on tour. The story has to then be proofread, edited, and then I will send it out to all the popular websites for publication. At midday, I'll try to grab a nap because I've been up since 4:30, grab some time in the hotel treadmill or fitness room, if you will, and then a shower, and it's off to weigh-in from there at about 3 o'clock. After weigh-in, 6 or 7 in the evening, I'm sending out more photos for social media support. And I'm generally in bed around 9:30 or 10, knowing that I'll get back up at 4:30 the next day. Essentially, I'm getting to live the life that a lot of pro anglers live without the stress of having to catch bass for a living. I don't ever want or hope I never have to leave the fishing industry. I'm a guy that loves what he does. And while the time away from home is tough, and all those lonely miles up and down Interstate 40 or whatever direction I'm headed are tough and cause for a lot of soul searching, at the end of each week, at the end of each event that I cover, I love what I do. And I hope I get to do it until I'm ready to retire.
29 pounds, 3 ounces! 29.3, the biggest bag of the week! The native son gets it done! Your 2016 Geico Bassmaster Classic champion, Edwin Evers!
Well, if Oklahoma is fortunate enough to host the Bassmaster Classic again, I really urge you to make it a priority and experience it in person, because video and words just don't do this event justice. I also think it's really pretty cool that the next time that you see an advertisement or read an article or see a picture related to the fishing industry, it very well might have originated with Skiatook's own Alan McGuckin. Hey, thanks for joining us today. And for all of us at your wildlife department, I'm Todd Craighead. We'll see you right here next time on Outdoor Oklahoma.